How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to show you what it's like to drive the all-new Civic Type R from a first-person point of view. I'm going to be honest, I absolutely love this car. It used to look a bit cartoonish in its styling, although the last generation Type R did drive very, very well. But this new variant is more mature and takes performance to an entirely new level. Under the hood of the new Type R is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. And I'm gonna be honest, this is one of the best looking engine bays of any modern car recently. We're getting more and more plastics and covering up more of the engine to where you open up the hood and it's just a piece of flat black plastic. But this with the carbon fiber accents actually looks really nice. Now, one of the coolest parts of the Civic Type R is that it comes only with a manual transmission. We'll go ahead and take a look at the interior. The result is 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. Now, I'm sure it would be faster than that if we had an auto, but why would you want that when you've got one of the most brilliant manual transmissions of any car out there? We'll go ahead and hop on the interior in a bit. One of the most impressive parts about the Civic Type R is its curb weight. It only weighs 3,188 pounds, which is roughly the same as something like a McLaren 720S or a Ferrari F8 Tributo. Massive rear wing that's actually styled so that you can't really see it from the inside of the car. You'll note it lines up almost perfectly with the rear window, so visibility isn't blocked whatsoever, but you've got more downforce than before and it looks a little bit less silly. The rear exhaust is pretty cool. It's got a triple exhaust outlet. The outer two are for city driving, lower sound levels, and the inner one, when you're in R mode, opens up that baffle and this thing gets relatively loud. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the rear seat environment. The back of the Type R actually does have a decent amount of room for 2 full-size adults, both in terms of headroom and legroom. We've got 2 cup holders right here. I like the red contrasted seat belts, and I also really like the Type R inscription in the back of the seat rest. Other than that, it is pretty simple back there, but the front of the interior is actually very impressive. Go ahead and open up the door to reveal red, red, and more red. I personally love the red Alcantara mixed with the black contrast. If you don't, well, this is the only interior color scheme available, which I think is really cool. You're going for a bold, in-your-face look, and these seats are fantastically comfortable and supportive. Notice 3 pedals, yes, a manual transmission. When you hop on inside the Type R, to turn it on, push your foot on the clutch, and then click the engine start button right there to turn on this car. Now, you've got multiple driving modes to choose from right here using the drive mode selector, but it also individually customizes the dash. So right now we're in comfort mode. There is sport mode. We'll go ahead and put it into individual mode. Nice horizontally laid out tachometer. Now, if we go over to individual, go back there, you can actually customize individual mode to your liking. So you can change how the engine responds. Right now it's in plus R mode, but you can make it comfort. You can change the steering weight, the suspension weight, engine sound, rev matching, etc., etc. Yes, it does have active rev matching for downshifts, where you can change between comfort and sport, or you can go full tilt with the R mode. Everything is maxed out. The steering wheel feels phenomenal in your hands. They did such a good job. The perfect diameter in terms of the wheel and the perfect thickness of the steering wheel. Limited buttons. It actually has adaptive cruise control with lane keep assist, which I'll show you later on, which is pretty cool. I love the vents, the kind of honeycomb grill for the air conditioning. We've got these little toggles to point the air conditioning, climate controls right down here. We've got wireless charging as well that works well as USB charging ports. Nice cigarette lighter. We've got a little badge here, Civic Type R, number 678. There's actually ambient lighting from those little LED strips right there. And these seats are so comfortable and supportive. Even some supercar manufacturers could learn from this. We've got 2 cup holders, some extra storage space right there as well. I like the graphics on the screen, I'm not gonna lie. All right, let's get this thing out on the road and see what it's like to drive. All right, 0 to 60 in the Type R. Let's try it out. Little wheel spin. man, once you get to that upper RPM range, this thing really starts to pull. And you'll notice it's got these really cool shift lights right above that horizontal tachometer. And it even beeps at you to let you know when to shift, which is pretty awesome. Now, I want to talk about the customizability of the driving modes, because it's really cool that you can independently control things like suspension from the engine responsiveness and exhaust, especially because this car rides really firmly. Now, on a track, that would be phenomenal, but out here on these bumpy canyon roads, it's nice to have a little bit extra comfort. So I've put the engine in R mode, steering in R mode, but the suspension in comfort. That way it doesn't bounce itself around. Cars like a GT4 RS from Porsche or a GT2 RS out here, while they're so good on the track, they're a little bit jumpy on these types of roads. So it's nice that you could dampen the suspension a little bit. The rest of the car, though, feels incredible. So now we've got it set up exactly the way I want. The steering is incredible in the Type R, impressively so. I mean, the steering rack feels almost as good as something you'd get in a Porsche GT3. The instant turn-in, the directness, and the feel of the steering is really, really impressive. It also takes a decent amount of effort to turn the wheel when you're in R mode, which I really like. I want it to be an experience where it takes a bit of effort, but at the same time, it's extremely, extremely rewarding. Now, the shifter is also one of the best in the business. BMW, what are you doing? Honda with the Type R has made a better transmission than I think has ever been in any BMW of all time. And I mean that seriously. This thing is so nice. Not only the way the knob feels in your hands, but the way it downshifts, the way the linkage feels, it's really, really impressive. Then we have auto rev matching, which you can change between sport and comfort. I'm actually not positive if you can turn it off or not. That's something for the comments below, but we'll leave it in sport since we are out here on the canyons. You've got a little bit of this notchy feel when you put it from second to third gear and third to fourth gear, but it's the most pleasing notchy feel ever. Now, this thing revs very freely. Let's talk about the exhaust for a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of the way the exhaust sounds on the Type R, but you know, for the price and the performance you're getting, this car is hard to beat. It's actually pretty incredible. And it also inspires a lot of confidence because of that front wheel drive layout. It's gonna tend at the limit to maybe understeer a bit instead of snap oversteer. It's got traction control in a reduced setting, but it's still got a ridiculous amount of grip, even though the surface is slightly damp. But what I like is, if you put it back into comfort mode, this thing is easy to drive. You can commute around town. Yes, the suspension is a bit firm, but if you like a sporty car, then that's honestly a plus. You've got space in the back. This thing is practical. You could use it on a daily basis. But then when you put it into R mode, it actually really comes alive. Now, with a dual axis front suspension, it does a really good job of mitigating torque steer. In front-wheel drive cars with high horsepower, sometimes when you're accelerating, if one wheel gets a little bit more traction than another wheel, it pulls in that direction, or torque steer, where it'll feel like the wheel's trying to pull itself out of your hands. There's not much of that whatsoever, but I will say at the top of the RPM range, when torque and horsepower really start to push you back into your seat and it's got this little bit of torque steer, it actually creates an incredibly fun driving experience that's addicting. You want to push this thing at the limits of its power because that's where it's got this exciting characteristic to it, and it's almost a little bit scary. You know, you don't think that a 315 horsepower car in today's day and age would be scary, but this thing, every moment behind the wheel of the Type R, I've been smiling. It's a bit of a ridiculous vehicle, but I love the fact that they've made the looks a bit more subdued, and the level of performance you're getting for 43, 44, 45 grand is really, really impressive. I love this car. I've had an absolute blast the week behind the wheel. I'm hard-pressed to think of anything that they could really improve. Sure, I wish the exhaust sounded a little bit better, but I think they did a fantastic job with the styling. The seats are absolutely perfect. I'm glad there's no automatic transmission option. It's just for the enthusiast. Yes, they could sell more if they made an automatic car. I was thinking about this the other day. They'd probably have 5 times more sales of the Type R if they made one with an automatic. But this car isn't for the average Joe who goes, oh, I don't even know what a Type R is. I think I might get one of those. This is for the enthusiast who knows that the red Honda badge means it's racing inspired, who knows that that R badge means it's a Type R, and for the enthusiast that wants a fun to drive manual car that's not insanely expensive. Getting another car that drives this well with 4 doors is gonna cost you a heck of a lot more money. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video. And even more, it's got lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control, so you can click this button on the steering wheel and commute in traffic and around town with this actually steering itself, slowing itself down, speeding itself up in the lanes. All right guys, see you next video.